Okay, it is just after 4 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting to order. Prior to that, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 land and home of the Dakota and the Métis. Approval of the agenda. Oops. Councillor Miller.
So moved.
Thank you. Declarations of conflict of interest. Oh, sorry, we got to vote. Sorry. We'll go to the vote here. Rushing through. It's a big night. Each time. Votes open. Councillor Lennox Zepp.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion's carried. Declaration of conflict of interest. I got to accept that. Just pass in your sheets as you know. Adoption of the minutes. We have none. No minutes there, okay. And delegations, there are none. Consent agenda, there is not a consent agenda. Reports of administration and committees. 7.1, water crane hardware replacement, verbal presentation, Director of Financial Services.
Just press the green button.
Yeah. Yep. How did it get on? Sorry.
Good evening. So at the 2021 budget deliberations, a new water crane software solution was recommended due to the city receiving a notification that the hardware for the water crane is no longer supported by the manufacturer. Council requested a further report regarding the benefits of installing this new water crane software. Upon further review, there is two actual places that use this type of hardware and software. The other one is at the septage receiving station. There are very few users there, so the hardware there is still functioning fine. However, at the water crane, where we have residents and commercial users, we have a lot more activity, and the punch pads are going to be, we're having issues with them. So upon further review, we don't need to look at a software solution at this time. I believe that we can go with just the replacement of the existing hardware for just the water crane instead of having to go with the $25,000 of a new software solution. So in conclusion, I'm recommending that the purchase of this hardware be considered for the 2022 budget deliberations. Are there any questions?
Okay, any questions for the director? Mayor Dion.
When we relocated the water crane from the city yards to up on the hill, did we not realize then that our hardware was old? Or what happened? I would have assumed when we shut the water crane down at the city yards and moved the operation up on the hill that we would have done something then. Could you just explain what happened during the move?
Wes might be able to better answer that, but I believe when the water crane was moved up on the hill, it was new at that time. Wes, you might want to, Director of Public Works, might want to comment.
Thank you for that question. If you recall, that was actually several years ago already. So at the time, I'm going to guess I think it was 2015. So that was already 6 years ago. So what we did is we updated the hardware and software to match the one at the wastewater treatment plant so that they were the same. But that was 6 years ago, and now the information that the financial director has is that that software is now running out. So the stuff at the wastewater plant is 2013, and I think the water crane is somewhere around 15 or 16.
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was thinking when we're replacing some of our hardware or software that they would go hand in hand. I'm happy to hear that you're not asking for the $25,000, but I suspect there will be a future ask for that one.
I'm assuming so. The hardware, the hardware that we have in there currently lasted for, like the Director of Public Works had mentioned, 6 years. We suspect that the septage sewage would last quite a bit about the same. So I'm assuming in about 5 to 6 years we'll be coming back with a request for a new software and hardware solution.
So you said you're not changing the wastewater one, the one at the wastewater. Is that one also plans to change some of that hardware in the future as well?
Probably at the same time we would probably be doing the water crane because I'm assuming based on the hardware is becoming obsolete, the manufacturer is no longer supporting it. So I'm assuming that they had given us options for upgrading the software, everything as a bundle. So at that time, probably 5 to 6 years, we'll be looking at a full implementation of a new software and hardware.
Thank you.
Mayor Dion.
So quick follow-up. So there isn't a program that we can buy that'll last 15, 20 years? It sounds like this water crane and the septic tank one is every 6, 7 years, it doesn't get backed up anymore. Is there not a better program that will last longer than that? That seems a very short time. So let's say it lasts 5 years. I hope you're raising the rates quite a bit because, you know, well, if you have 15,000 in it, that's 3,000 more a year. The cost to pump water that we don't, I don't think we do the volume that the water cranes do in the RM. So is there another program or are we stuck with this one?
There's limited availability for this kind of software hardware. When we were looking even for what is available for rates out there, it was very, very limited.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much for the presentation, and we'll go to the vote. Oh, we need a motion, sorry. Hang on. We have Councillor Head up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the point number 1, because it sounds like through the recommendation, we're not seeking the software, so just the first point there.
So what do you want to do with 2? Oh,
Sounded like they weren't asking for that, nor are we going that direction, so we'll just delete it out of there. Thank you.
okay. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Call the vote.
Tara Lennox Zepp here. I just want to take a look at the motion without number 2. I'm just taking a look at it.
Okay? Good, Councillor Lennox up?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the vote here. Vote's open. Councillor Lennox up?
Yes.
Okay, vote's closed and carried unanimously. Okay, item 7.2, water crane review, verbal presentation, Director of Financial Services. One moment. There we go.
Upon review of the water rate for the city, we are recommending a rate increase of 44 cents per cubic meter. Council had asked for a review of the water crane rate. The water crane rate hasn't increased since January 1st of 2015. And our current water rate is less than our immediate surrounding water cranes, other water cranes. So the other ones would be with the Pure Rural Water Utility on the White Star grid, and the other one would be 3 miles east of Prince Albert on the 302. Both those water cranes are at a rate of 4.84 cubic meters. We're recommending that we be the same. The resulting increase, based on our volume for the last 5 years, would bring in additional revenue of $4,700. So in the chart, there is a chart in the report on page 3 of what it would cost for the average users based on the number of liters provided. If we were to increase the rate too much more than the 484, that may actually reduce the amount of users using the water crane, and we actually may bring in less revenue. So the recommendation is to be equivalent with the PA Rural Water rates that they are charging. So that, in conclusion, that is my recommendation.
Okay, any questions? Mayor Dion?
I know the utility and them are, in the RM are just preparing their budgets. Have you talked to them to ask them if they're going to move from that 484 to maybe $5? I would hate to move and then find out in 2 months, when they finish their budget, that they moved higher than us.
Okay, so maybe we can have that information prior to the council meeting.
So you would recommend, just before we come to budget with the rate increase, to do some homework there to see if there was any corresponding rate increases with, okay, that sounds good. We can definitely do that.
Councillor Cody?
Yeah, I guess the key question here is the review that's being done now on the utility rates. Can we find out when that review is complete, when we might get a recommendation? Will it be prior to the budget process?
So the utility rate review will be done prior to the budgeting process for the utilities. And the water crane rate will be a part of that. Unfortunately, any increase, like this 44 cent per meter cubed, won't bring in a huge amount of revenue, but depending on what our surrounding area does, we'll look at that again.
Okay, thank you. We have a mover. Mayor Dion?
Sorry for the follow-up question, and this is a loaded one. Do we need a water crane? Considering there's 2 other spots, like, do we use the water? Well, no, then we wouldn't charge ourselves.
Based on our usage over the last 5 years, it has been noted that it's mostly residents and commercial haulers that are using the water crane. However, in the number of individuals, we may not be able to determine that. But the water crane was built or moved up to the hill 6-7 years ago or so.
Okay, we need a mover. Councillor Kilmer?
I'll move that with a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I am wondering if we can save time yearly, if we as a council feel that we should always have the same rate as the RMs, then would we not maybe put in there something that states that we will always have the same, and it would stop it from coming to this council I've only been here a year, but I'm just wondering if we set that, we can save some time.
Is there any response to that from anybody? Anybody want to tackle that? No? Okay. Okay, Mayor Dion?
Also for council, I do know the answer. How many local water haulers do we have? I think the answer is 0. I don't think we have any water haulers left in the city. So that would be an important question for us to answer too, is we don't know. Bob's, I don't think is functioning. That was the only one we had left in the city. So I'm going to ask that we look into that, because then we're not talking about us using the water crane. It'll be more outside. And I think that's a valuable question to find out.
And maybe we need to do a little advertising to the fact that we actually have one there. A little marketing, increase the volume. Okay, we still don't have oh yeah, we do. Councillor Kilmer moved that recommendation. Okay, no further discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. Vote's open. Councillor Lennox Zapp?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Okay. Item 7.3, replacement of mail room equipment. Verbal presentation, Director of Financial Services. What did I do here? There we go. Got it. I got it. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. The folding machine and postage machine are due for replacement. I am asking that these purchases be considered at the 2022 budget deliberations. The total cost for replacement of both machines is $35,690. The folding machine shown in the report will have the capability of providing more inserts than the current machine. This will improve the city's ability to share information with residents of Prince Albert by having the ability to allow for more inserts. The existing folding and postage machine will be kept for redundancy and maintained in case of equipment failure of either machine. This will eliminate manually stuffing envelopes, which affects customer service and productivity, and will avoid mail or registered mail from being delayed. In conclusion, I am recommending that the purchase of the folding machine and postage machine for $35,690 be considered at the 2022 budget deliberations. Are there any questions?
Councillor Miller?
I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Zerkowski?
Thanks. Director, can you explain to us, or maybe enlighten us, how this will improve customer service for our residents? Why is this important to them? How does this make their life better?
When we have breakdowns where we can't get the machine fixed on the same day or the next day, if we have to order parts, we have to manually stuff envelopes. That takes everybody away from answering calls and doing their work. So this would improve customer service by allowing the time for our staff to be there to answer those calls.
So when breakdowns occur, the public that go to the front counter here or poorly served when the breakdown occurs. So we're talking about the public that come to the front counter. I'm paraphrasing to make sure I understand.
So usually we always try and make sure we have the front counter covered. And that is something that we always make sure that is available. However, while they're at the counter, they may be stuffing envelopes and putting that aside when a customer comes to the counter. Phone calls could be missed, possibly. We do have backup calls, people on the calls and behind the scenes. However, that is not always available when we have to pull people from backup calls to stuff envelopes with paper.
And how many people does this involve, the stuffing of?
Depends on how far behind we are. So if it's about 250, we may take away 3 to 5 staff. If it's for the if we just getting into it and the machine breaks down as we're just starting the printing and the going through the folding machine, it could take a day or longer, depending on how far along we've gotten with the existing equipment prior to it breaking down.
Does this affect any other departments or only financial services? Or are other departments negatively affected in their service to the public?
Quite possibly. That could be anything from mail or registered mail being held a day or so. We also could mean, again, missed calls that should have been forwarded to another department that we may miss. But for the most part, I would say it's mostly the mail that it would be affected.
Okay, thank you.
So Director, I see on here, it says 70% of the usage for both machines is for monthly utility billing.
Correct.
How are we making out switching people over online? Have we ran promos? Have we done any of that?
We have looked at it actually fairly recently because SaskTel had a little bit of a glitch in their system. It caused a lot of the electronic bills that were sent to go to spam or junk mail. And unfortunately, that caused some people to come off of the electronic billing. So we're not making a whole lot of progress this year.
Okay, so I just remember 2 or maybe 3 years ago, we talked about running promotions to get people onto the e-bill. but we haven't done that.
No, we have not done that yet. One of the things is we can do that. We can promote it. However, we are at about 25% of people on electronic billing. And the maximum that you're going to probably get without another customer portal solution is only 30%. We can spend the money and encourage people to be electronic, but that might get us maybe a few more percentages. However, because we don't have a customer portal, it's unlikely that we're going to go past that 30%.
What do you mean customer portal? Like we have to spend money to
So
get additional?
right now, we don't have the ability for customers to go online and manage their account. That could mean going into, again, electronic billing where they can look at their property taxes, their accounts receivable, and the water utility all at the same time. We don't have that virtual capability right now. It is something that we are working on. However, it's not going to be this year that we're going to be able to do that.
So we have a cap on the amount of people we can sign up?
Nope, we don't. I have looked at quite a bit of research. You'll never, unless you mandate it, you won't get much past the 30% mark. This is research that was conducted by various utility companies such as natural gas and other gas products, and their research that has been done and published is that 30% is about all we're going to get. We could try and get more than that, put some money towards it and encourage people to do that, but without having that additional customer portal, it's been shown that the two go hand in hand, and you're not going to get a whole lot more compliance in the electronic billing.
So that's when, I mean, I think that one of the major corporations, the Crowns, just cut mail off. I don't even think you can get a paper copy.
You were correct. There's a lot of I believe there is the Crowns that have gone with the electronic. I don't know how they're handling with, because there's always going to be customers that will need maybe a paper-based, whether they have a computer or not. But that's one of the things that we'll have to look at, because if it's mandatory, we have to look at some situations and circumstances that we may have to still do a paper copy with.
Because it's quite an expense monthly.
Yes,
to do
yes, it
this.
is.
So when we switched over to monthly and this was way better, I think that we didn't do some research there on how we were going to get people switched over. I don't know. To me, we should be encouraging more people to go online, and maybe we need to say, no more paper unless you ask specifically for paper, because people will just keep accepting it. They'll just keep grabbing their $1 stamped envelope and they'll read it unless we do something.
We do, whenever we do set up new accounts or deal with clients of utilities, we always ask, can we email your bill to you? So we do take other initiatives other than putting something on the utility bill itself or putting out some kind of advertisement. We do that at the front counter.
So to me, we're not going to grow that because we're not trying to grow it because the statistics say you're not likely to succeed. Mayor Dion.
I don't have the amounts now, but every paper copy I do get paper copies, I pay a fee for it. They made it quite clear to me if I don't want to go online, there's a fee.
Yes.
And I had to sign up for the fee. So I prefer paper because I'm not electronically a wizard yet. And so there is a fee for that. So I would suggest the department looks into that, because if we have to keep going down that route and a person has an option whether to get electronically or pay a fee to get the paper copy, then that's their choice.
That sounds like a good motion in the future. Okay. Do we have a mover? Oh, we do. Councillor Miller. I'm going to call the vote. Votes open. Counselor Miller? Or sorry, Counselor Lennox Zep?
I vote yes.
Motion's carried. Item 7.4, Capital Asset Management Plan, Annual Consultant Cost, verbal presentation. Director of Financial Services.
Good afternoon. At the 2021 budget deliberations, administration was asked to inquire as to the annual cost for a consultant to provide an asset management plan, otherwise known as an AMP. At the 2021 budget deliberations, a 2-year temporary position was requested in order to complete an AMP for the city. Upon further review of the industry, investigating other municipalities, and availability of current resources, I am proposing that an asset management plan working group be established. Asset management is a specialized field and is not an accounting function. For example, using an aquatic center as an example, the building would be compartmentalized in order to forecast the renewal time and cost of each component. For example, the whole building with a 50-year life at $50 million would last longer than the various parts that make up that center. Building segments such as change rooms, kiosk fit-out, office space fit-out, and pool shell would be required for replacement or upgrades sooner than the actual building replacement. So these are examples of what an asset management plan would be, and this would help for bringing forward those asks that are required in order to keep different assets going. And that would be things like the water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant, and then you could identify when those things would be coming forward, when you would need the funding, and when they would need replacement. A consultant would provide the necessary tools for guidance and assistance in order to make this project a success. The benefits of an AMP would provide administration with the tools to identify when assets will be requiring replacement or significant upgrades or updates. It would also match asset requirements to funding needs. The city's insurance provider supports this initiative, and the insurance providers will be able to substantiate replacement cost values and asset information. The success of this would meet regulatory compliance, which we are requiring with the Municipal Gas Tax Fund Agreement. Asset risks would be identified. It would ensure assets are maintained, ensure future plans are in place for replacement or upgrades of assets or components of assets. It would help with funding that is ensure that funding is available for asset replacement or upgrades. And it would also ensure third-party funding is not at risk due to the lack of an AMP. Other funding will also be investigated in order to supplement this project. In conclusion, in order for an AMP to be successful, all departments must be involved. 2022 will be a very busy year for financial services and other city departments as we progress through existing and new projects. With the guidance and assistance of a consultant, the working group would be able to set the stage for an asset management plan that can progress into a viable tool for the future. Questions?
Councillor Head.
Just a couple comments and I guess a question about the resolution dated around the background in your report, Cheryl. You mentioned that the administration inquires to an annual cost of, a 2-year temporary position was requested, and I guess was that ever looked at, the 2-year term versus a consultant?
So the idea of the two-year temporary position was for a person to work with the city departments that has that ability of creating an asset management plan and to be able to develop the tool, policies, procedures, and have that available for us. Instead of having a consultant come in, gather the information, and then give us a product. So the recommendation with the temporary position was to work with us and develop it ourselves in-house so that it's a tool that doesn't sit on the shelf but is used as we go forward into the future with any purchasing of any capital assets.
So is any work done on that, I guess, through your working group?
Pardon me?
Has there been any work done on that other than saying, here, we need a consultant to kind of get us started? Has there been any work done on that?
There has been meetings. There was a couple meetings that we had a couple years ago or even last year, beginning of last year, when we started talking about what can we do to get an asset management plan together. However, it's a little bit more intricate. It's yes, there's financial data that is required. However, we also need engineering skills to tell us different aspects of those assets. And a consultant that has the expertise in the capital assets, like an asset management plan, would be able to get us on track with what is required. The Federal Municipalities Association has different tools available, but we don't necessarily have the resources to work on this, and also to identify those parts of the capital assets. So that's why I feel a working group would be better, because all departments would have to be involved and we can work together in developing this.
Fair enough. Thank you for answering that. No, I definitely agree with the working group, and it's important that we protect our assets. So, I mean, that is something that, I think we should be looking at. And we've heard presentations even last week from our water treatment plant operator, asking for certain expansions to the plant. And I suspect all the managers are doing that. So I am not supporting this today because I know there's a lot of asks coming up. I do think we need to work at forming this group or identifying where some of that work needs to be, I guess, applied. But for today, I think we have the capabilities within our corporation, and I know we have building inspectors, and I know we have an array of staff. I like to see this stuff stay within our group, and not supporting this today.
Any other discussions? Hearing none? I'll call the vote. Oh, no motion. Can't do it yet. Do we have a motion? What's your wish? Okay, motion dies for lack of mover. Okay, we're going to 7.5 interfund transfers, utility fund, verbal presentation, Director of Financial Services.
Good afternoon. At the 2021 budget deliberations for the utility fund, administration was asked to review street sweeping costs and other transfer amounts allocated from the general fund. Upon discussion with Public Works, street sweeping provides minimal benefit to the waterworks system. Therefore, it is recommended that the 2022 budget of approximately $143,300 be charged back to the general fund. It is also recommended that the allocation of one financial services chief clerk position be charged back to the general fund. This allocation was approved for the 2018 utility fund budget due to additional resources required for the water meter replacement project. Since the project is complete, the allocation is no longer required. The amount is estimated to be $80,000. As noted in the report, interfund transactions are part of fund accounting according to the Public Sector Accounting Board, otherwise known as PSAB. These standards are established to serve the public interest, and the city follows these standards. With respect to the utility fund, interfund transactions are made up of city facility utility usage and the amount of $614,000. The 2009 budget approved the annual allocation of 5% of budgeted utility operational revenues. The annual allocation represents city personnel costs that provide services, plus other operational expenses. These are identified in the report. The current allocation at 5% would be estimated at $957,000. However, the $614,000 remained as is since 2016. In conclusion, these recommended adjustments would reduce the utility fund expenses by $223,300, but would also increase the expenses in the general fund by the equivalent amount. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you very much. I'm just trying to understand the position, the full-time position that is moving from utilities to the general fund. So did I hear correctly and read correctly that that position was needed in utility because of putting in the new water meters? Was that correct?
That is correct.
So then the position moving back to the general fund to your, would it be in finance then?
They've always been in finance. It's just that it was an allocation of cost because we had that person in, or that position working more with that project as opposed to doing her other chief clerk duties.
So while she was doing the other project, who was doing her?
We had, there was, everybody else picked
their
up
work, sort of
whatever
said.
was left over. So she also still continued to do some of her job as well, but we don't have specific chief clerks focusing on one item. So if we're short-staffed, that means that the other people have to kick in and pick up whatever is needed in order to make sure that we can get everything done.
Okay, and then second question. So just to be clear back on that position, there isn't an increase in work for that position. It has, prior to changing, prior to when it was being used as the, helping with the change of the water meters, the other work was able to be done and
Yes.
complete. Okay, thank you. Then a second question is, when we're transferring from utilities, so the 5% that we're talking about, under utilities, under each, in the budget, under each facility, right? It's under each facility, utilities, and it's a cost.
Okay.
So we're moving that, some of that, away from each facility into the general fund? Is that, am I?
You're talking about the city facility
The
water usage?
Yes.
It actually works where anything that is city-owned, where we use our own water in order to provide that service, say, for instance, the golf course was one that we had talked about at budget deliberations just this last year. The cost of that water is charged to the golf course. Revenue goes to the utility fund, but then it comes out as a transfer. So the net effect to the utility fund when it comes to water usage is zero.
Okay.
Because it shows as revenue, and then it
Yes.
comes back out to the general fund.
Okay, and part of that transfer that we do.
Right, right. That's why there is the transfer, because it's just a an allocation to
Right.
show that the utility fund and the city facilities or city services that use city services, that could be splash parks, play as well, not just buildings. That is a charge that the cities use in the general fund. So the revenue shows in the utility fund, but it's backed out because it's an inter-fund transfer.
Good, so then, in my mind, when we're looking at the RM, the people who use our facilities, and we hopefully will be able to find an amount that we're going to be charging residents who do not live in our city, that amount per facility is available, right? For us to figure out an amount that would be fair.
We don't generally separate revenue based on whether it's a city resident or a non-resident, depending on.
No, that isn't what I'm asking. I'm just making sure that the facility use, the amount to run a facility, includes the water usage.
Right.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Counselor Cody.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused with this whole memo here. First of all, we talk about street sweeping. That's an issue that we talked about in the last budget, I believe, or the last while. It said there's an issue there. Then we talk about the 5%. And then we also talk about the transfer of water from the facility, from our own facilities. So, we're really looking at three different things here in this memo. I agree with the $143,000, definitely. That sweeping should not be in the utility, that's for sure. And secondly, the reason why we are charging this 5%, or the 5% goes from the utility to the general fund, is because that's the way it started many, many years ago when the utility started its own fund. That's what happened. We said at the time, this is the people's money that's going into this utility. Let's give the people some opportunity to get something from it to reduce their taxes, and as a result, the 5% was done. And now it's never changed from the $614,000, and maybe, just maybe, it can't change. Because if the utility isn't making any money, it's pretty difficult to get money out of it. So my suggestion would be, probably if you wanted to be fair to the utility and fair to the taxpayers, the $614,000 would be adequate. Leave it that way. Insofar as the transfers of the money coming for our water utilities, that's really just an in and out book thing. There's really no money's changed hands here. It's in and it's out, so it's really, all it is a mechanism of tracking. So we know what water are we using. That's really what it's all about. So I'm at 6s and 7s on this thing, really. But as far as I'm concerned, we should continue on taking the money from the utility, giving it to the general fund at $614,000. I don't know if we want to increase it or not. That's up to the council. Certainly the water in and out, that's okay. And the $143,000 coming out and the chief clerk, I think that's fine with me. So I would be prepared to move this.
Counselor Miller.
Great, thank you. So talking about the chief clerk position for the water utility, going back to that. So with this person that we did hire, so wouldn't she be the one still stuffing the envelopes and doing such things that we needed before?
This position was an allocation, nobody was hired for it. It was a reallocation of resources and funds in order to help out with the water meter replacement project.
So you don't need to use her anymore for the stuffing of the envelopes and...
We only started stuffing of the envelopes in June of 2020 when we started monthly billing. If she was around, if there was only one chief clerk around, she may be supervising, but normally that's not something, The position was just for the project.
Okay, so we're deleting this totally from the general fund also then? Or where is this person going?
Just back to financial services in the general fund.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a question, and I'm just a little confused then. If I'm looking at this $223,000, we're looking to make up for that now in the general fund. So that's an additional expense added to the budget. Am I wrong on that?
That would be correct if this is to go from the utility fund to the general fund, it would have to be made up in the general fund.
Right. So we're looking for now nearly 1% because of a shuffle, and I'm not supporting it because of that. I think there's got to be another way to juggle things, but adding it into the mill rate right now hurts in an already difficult budget year. And here we are, $223,300 asking prior. So I'm not supporting it, and those are my reasons. Any other discussions? Hearing none, I'll open the vote. How come my capital asset management vote is still there? Oh, right, okay, good, thank you. Okay, the vote's open. Councillor Lennox Epp?
My vote is yes.
Yes? We missed that. Was that a yes or a no?
Yes, my vote is a yes.
Thank you. Close. Motion's carried. Okay. Item 7.6, mobile app budget proposal, power presentation, acting director of corporate services.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
They won't tell us to do this, but we're doing it anyway.
We're gonna have a 10% budget increase. Go ahead, sorry. I think she was trying
I'm
to.
just waiting for the PowerPoint. I don't know. Oh my God. Uh-oh.
You want to just say click and then we can do it from over
Just say
here?
click?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
okay, click.
Click. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm here tonight to talk about a potential mobile app for the city of Prince Albert. So they've been used pretty widely across, we're way too far ahead here. Hold on. Oh boy, gotta back it up.
Can we back it up?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Back it up. Who's controlling this? Terry.
Back.
Back.
The first slide, yeah. So I'll just get started. So they've been used pretty widely, for cities across Canada. Some of the benefits specifically are around connecting residents to the services that the city provides. So the city's website actually has quite a number of online services. Some of the most used are the online recreation registration. That's one of the most popular. Quite popular, actually. I just looked at the stats today. Transit Live was one of the more popular. It's not functioning right now, but it was one of the largest hits on our site. The Transit Route Planner, job posting, garbage and recycling schedules. You can change it, Terry. One more. So, and then this is just a list of some of the other services that we provide through the website: arrivals and departures, our events calendar, news and notices, the agendas online, reporting a bylaw violation, report a concern, road closure notices, assessment online, and the parking ticket payment. So that's sort of some of the core online services. So what an app does is it brings these all together in one location so that you can kind of find it easier than searching through the site to find these services. And then it just has some features for streamlining communication. So you can push notifications out to residents using this platform rather than, cluttering up their email with notifications. One more, Terry. So when we talked to the city of Moose Jaw, they actually had quite an uptake in their app when they launched it. I think it was late 2020. They had 21.7% of their population download the app to date, which is a pretty strong number if you consider that that's just adults that would download that app. And they thought a lot of that was due to COVID and a lot of the move to online registrations and that type of thing. So it has value, and I think there's opportunity there to capitalize on the interest that there is, especially as people move online. And 69% of our users are on mobile devices or tablets, so there's sort of a market there to tap into. You can switch it, Terry. So there's 3 options that we were looking at. Sort of a more traditional that I'll go through, a request for service one, which is what Moose Jaw has done, and then this resident-centered portal. You can switch it, Terry. So the traditional app, this is really what you see in most cities right now, is just it collects all of your online services, and you just kind of it just sends you off to the website. Go onto this page to plan your transit route. Go to this page to register for recreation. It's pretty straightforward. The annual costs are usually between $7,000 and $20,000 a year, and a lot of that is because the app stores do require, I think, quite a rigorous process just in terms of the background to make sure the upgrades are working and all of that stuff. So there's a bit of expertise when they're customizing these things so that they work. You can switch it, Terry. So the request for service mobile app, and this is what Moose Jaw did. What is a little bit unique about this one is it also created a bit of a platform for a ticketing system for the city. So residents can they go on the online form and they create a ticket. The employee goes out and now knows, okay, this is a broken garbage bin. They can go out, and they actually assign the work through the app. This is definitely intriguing and definitely the feature that they like the most and why they implemented it. The difference between the city of PA is that we actually, with our CityWorks software, which we've been talking to, I think, a lot about in the last year, that's coming for the end of this year, does this. It actually has this functionality. It will be tied into our online forms on our website. So there's a little bit of a redundancy for us with this particular option. Click here, Terry. So the third option that we're looking at, and this one's a little bit newer, it's City of Kitchener has done it. It goes a little bit farther, and it really ties into the previous conversation about utility bills. So if you could click to the next one. So there's really 2 things. So it still links off to all those services and that we discussed, but it also, through integration, links customers to their personal accounts. So rather than just seeing your water bill, or rather than just clicking to the page that says, here's 4 options to pay your water bill, it actually shows you your water bill that's owing. You can download your bill from the app, and you can pay your bill. So this is future state though, so it's important to keep in mind. So we have work to do on our back end to get to where we could use this portal this way. But what's important about this portal is that it's capable of that, so we could get there. The other piece is that it can customize the features that are relevant to the resident. So if you only care about the garbage collection schedule and utility billing, but you're not really interested in the calendar of events or the transit schedules, you don't need to see that on your app. You can just click the buttons and customize it that way. So you can click. So the citizen portal, so on launch, for the same price, we would get the same link off. So we would just have the customized features where you can just click what applies, and you would get linked off to all of these features. The next step, and you can click it again, Terry, is to get to a place where we have that utility billing. So as our online back-end systems catch up, which is all the work of the ITAG group, once those systems catch up, then we could start one at a time integrating these features. So same, it would be property taxes, the report of concern, so that you could see inside the portal, what was the last report of concern that I put in, and what is, and do I need to follow up on that? Was it completed? That type of thing. So, I mean, you can go to the next. So this is really the app that we're most interested in. It's pretty future state. We're looking ahead at the possibilities instead of just sort of connecting people to what's already there. The other thing that's really, really important about this option is that it allows us to integrate our systems so that rather than downloading an app to see our automated garbage schedule, which you have to do now, and downloading a separate app to see what your water usage is through the Ion Water app, it really links these systems together so that you're just in one app, one password, you log into your app, and then you see it all in one spot. So it's where we'd rather go. I think this is the option that I'm sort of sold on. But it is future, and it comes with more cost implications. So this year we would phase in the first list. Future years we would phase in the next, and each one comes with implementation costs. So the utility billing one, for example, I think I had in the report was $10,000 implementation and $2,500 annually to have that feature. So although this is where I want to go, I just wanted you to be aware of those implications. So what we're asking for now is the one-time fee to implement next year, the base platform, and then we would come to each budget year after that to say, okay, we're ready for this feature. And that concludes the presentation if you have any questions.
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Kylie, for your presentation. It was quite good to read. I was quite impressed reading this, and definitely something we should be moving towards in the future here. And it would consolidate some of our services, streamlines our services and process for the residents and for us in this room as well. So I'll move this recommendation.
Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this presentation, just as Councillor Head, and I agree with him. Just thinking in the future, would this citizen portal then be one of the, or possibility be a way of proving residency in order to perhaps get into different facilities at particular costs, or can we see that the inner workings be used that way? So registration, recreation registration could be a two-tiered approach?
I've struggled to answer that right now. That I think it's probably possible, but it'd probably be its own system. It would require some investigation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Kylie, for the report. It's very interesting and exciting. My only concern is, will it be used? You know, like we have e-billing right now, and it's only, our finance director said it's only 30% of people go to e-billing, which is electronic. And so will people use this? Will seniors use this? People, there are a lot of people in our community, I'm sure, that don't have access to technology as well. It doesn't mean that everybody has to use it, but I'm not sure that the general public will sign up and use this, and so I'm not sure if we're ready for it. So That's my only concern. I think it's a great idea, though. Like, I'll sign up, but like, I get e-bill with my utility and taxes, et cetera, but I'm not sure how well it will be used, so that's just a concern I have.
Any other discussions? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. Votes open. Counselor Lennox up.
Yes.
Motion's carried. Okay, 7.7, Corporate Records Management Program, verbal presentation. City Clerk.
Hello. So records management program, this is intriguing item. So everybody's excited about records management. So the city clerk's office has a fairly reliable system for managing the formal records that go through council and committee meetings. Further to that, there is no consistent records management system for the corporation as a whole, and more specifically for electronic records. Currently, departments are facing challenges such as the lack of email management, the requirement for resources to manage information from various sources, such as scanners, cell phones, or tablets. Properly retaining records in electronic format. So for example, no proper folder structures, varying systems within each area, or naming conventions for documents. Records are not easily accessible as searching capabilities are inadequate or inefficient. Multiple versions or multiple copies exist for the same record, and it's unclear which version is the correct corporate record. Retention of unnecessary records that are eligible for disposition. Lack of confidence that all records they may be requested are actually being gathered to provide. It is apparent through previous experiences that neither the IT department nor the city clerk's office have the time, resources, and expertise to solely implement a thorough review of the corporate records and filing systems for each department. We require assistance to ensure that any project that is implemented is given the attention it needs to be successful. Therefore, it is imperative that a thorough review be conducted to successfully establish and implement a fully functional corporate records management initiative that will be easy to manage, address all current deficiencies, and be adaptable for future growth and changes. To achieve this in a short period of time, we have broken the project into two parts. The first part is the electronic content management program, which would allow the city to complete a comprehensive review to develop a records management plan that integrates with SharePoint platform of Microsoft Office. Within the plan, we would identify where we need assistance and engage professionals in the records and information management industry. This process would assist in the development of a corporate-wide program by gathering information to gain a general understanding of the priorities in each department, with training and full implementation in the winter of 2023. This first part of the initiative has been budgeted within the total IT department capital projects at an estimated cost of $80,000. The second part, the retention and disposition of corporate non-digital records, would allow the city clerk's office to establish a 3 to 5 year plan to hire a 4-month term clerk steno starting in May each year. The position would address organizing, categorizing, and ultimately retaining and disposing duties for non-digital corporate records located in the basement storage area. In the initial year, the position would start by working with the city clerk's office to establish a dedicated process that can be utilized over the next number of years to assist other departments and areas as the city continues to clean up and establish a dedicated city archives area in the basement that will be easily maintained and managed moving forward. The first year for the term position is being requested for inclusion within the city clerk's office budget at an estimated cost of $16,100, with a hope to continue the position for another 2 to 4 years. Any questions?
Any questions? Councillor Miller?
I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Okay. We have a mover. I'll let you get that up there and then we'll go to the vote. Thank you. Okay, we'll call the vote. Vote is open. Councillor Lennox up.
Yes.
The motion's carried. Okay, 7.8, Fire Dispatch Service Agreement, Amendment Number 1, Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency, verbal presentation, City Manager. Wherever you want, it doesn't matter. If you're good there. Sure. Wrong, next one, there you go, you got it.
Okay, perfect. Can everyone hear me? Okay, so yes, the fire dispatch for the city of Prince Albert. In 2018, we signed an agreement with the provincial government and the Ministry of Government Relations regarding a 10-year agreement where we were going to get approximately $43,000 a year as credit for moving forward and having the provincial agency carry through. So that basically came through in 2018 with the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. What we're seeing now, in the last 3 years, they've done some homework on the particular program and with the costs associated with providing service dispatching through the Provincial Emergency Communications Center. So with that, they discovered that the yearly grant of us in $43,000 plus was a little excessive. And so what we've got in front of you right now is how the $1.25 per capita that we had in there for the next 7 years, it's going to go up by 25 cents in 2022, another 25% in 23, another 25 cents in 24. This is all per capita. And then it stays at the 75 cents for 4 years. And then on January 1st, 2028, which is the 10th year of the contract, the final 20 or 75 cents. So it's still a pretty good deal for the city. Initially, it was going to be $43,000 a year for 10 years, so $430,000 was going to be a credit. But over a period of time, it's going to go down. After that 10 years, there will be another negotiation. So I think, with a third party who's handling that particular piece of our operation, as you recall, it was downstairs where they were using that in our basement at one time. Now they're at a very nice facility just west of the city. And I believe, and the police chief who was here was saying that they're providing very good service to the city of Prince Albert. That's basically all I have. Is there any questions?
Mayor Dion.
Okay, so what is the increase in cost? If we were paying, or we're supposed to get a credit of $43,000 a year for 10 years, that's $430,000. So what's changed in that $430,000? That's the bottom line, is the dollar.
Okay, so the 25% per capita is about $8,755. So in 2022, that's what it will be. In 2023, $17,005. In 2024, $26,340, and that continues for 5 years. Then 2028, a reduction of $45,000. So that's how it's going to be being reduced over a period of time.
So it doesn't cost us any more money than what we're getting today. We're still getting a credit that
Yeah, that's
covers our
correct.
full service.
Yeah, and this was a little bit surprising, because when I originally did sign that with the government, we thought we were going to get 10 years of that discount, but after the 3 years, they felt that it would a little much what we signed off, and so there's a signed agreement.
Okay, so now my last loaded question. Do they have the right to do that in the agreement?
They do. There was a clause in there that said that they have the opportunity to review.
Maybe
Yes.
I'll move the recommendation.
Counselor Cody?
Yeah, is there a sliding scale with regards to population? Or will it stay static for the 10 years?
I would say that with every census, if there was compatibility with the two sides, to say that we want to stick with the census number, then we could see ebbs and flows either up or down depending on the census.
This could make quite a difference to us here if we have a sudden rise in population. And with the increases that we're getting, we could be in some quite heavy expense, because I don't think our population will stay static. And it'll just be an added expense to us. So I was just wondering if there was anything in the agreement to make it static, or was there something in the agreement saying it can slide upward?
Yeah, in the agreement, I'm pretty sure there's a clause in here. This amount will be prorated in the first and last year based on the dispatch. Oh, here it is. I had of it here. They do say this credit may be applied to any costs incurred by the city for firefighting at their discretion and recognize the possibility of future fire dispatching. Then it goes, the credit may be suspended at the discretion of the minister until such time as the service have been completed, if they're not completed by the date. Funding will be advanced and credit applied to you by the ministry. Yeah, that's what I have here. Yeah, that's what I have in this agreement.
That's fine. You can look that up and satisfy us later, because this is going to go to budget anyway.
Yeah, it was a simple two-pager, really, what this was.
As well, do you know if there's other cities that have a same kind of a situation with dispatching, or are we the only ones that use the government to dispatch for fire?
They're quite broad. I think, the big cities have their own dispatch. I believe Moose Jaw does. I don't know of anyone else that does that. They're very broad. They're not just municipalities that they deal with. This organization.
Mayor Dion?
I did move the motion, but so I have a question for the city manager then. If it's no extra cost to us, why is it going to budget? I'm sort of caught off guard now. We were getting 43, it was costing us nothing. They're reducing it, but it's still costing us nothing. So can you answer why it's going to budget? Or did I misunderstand you when it said it's not costing us anything?
It's costing us.
Yeah, it's costing us money. As this does go down, we'll be paying more. It's the grant that's going down. The grant that we originally signed for $43,877 annually over 10 years, there was a small clause in there that said that they have an opportunity to review. That's when the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency, after 3 years, did their review and said, we think that we should be getting, shouldn't be paying as much to the city now as we were when it first started out. We got a good deal on that, to get that kind of money from them.
Well, we had a good deal on it till they backed out. City Solicitor, you look like you're ready to pipe in here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I think the question is, and perhaps there's some misunderstanding, the annual credit will continue for the course of the 10 years. So that will continue. Under the original agreement, there was a cost that was ascribed to the City of Prince Albert, which would be equivalent to all of the other municipalities that pay similar rates for the same service. We got the credit. We got the credit because we transferred and carried them as the dispatch service, carried the province until the time that the government agency stepped in. So the city manager negotiated that very extensive credit over that time period. That credit applies against the rates that apply to everybody else, and under the agreement with on proper notice, the government public safety agency was able to adjust its rates around the province to all municipalities, and so that's what they did. And so the rate now, or the credit now applies to a higher rate, and so that's why it goes to budget, because there's a differential between the higher rate and the credit. But the credit will continue for the balance of the time period for which it was negotiated. Does that make sense?
Now, yeah.
It was $1.25 per. I would have to go back to the original agreement, I'm afraid, Councillor, to let you know what that rate actually worked out to be. There was and there may be, just let me check on this agreement, if there was a schedule on the original agreement that had those numbers on it. Yes, there's a letter. The annual credit was $43,877, and the rate that credit also had included a $25,000 lump sum fee as well before the 10-year credit. No, my apologies. I thought that that Schedule C actually had the original charge, $1.25 per capita times 35,102 persons. So whatever that $1.25 on 35 cents, that would be 17. To be around. I think the intention was that it would cover the annual amount. So I think the amount it was $43,877.50, which looks like about 1.25 per capita times 35,000 people. So I think the idea was originally that you were paying $0. Now you'll be paying. That's correct, and that's why it goes to budget, because there is a differential that will now come out of the city will now come out of pocket.
Okay, so I think I understand it now, that we were paying 43, and after the first 3 years, they had the right to review. They reviewed it, and I'm just going to round it off, and they say the cost now is $50,000. So we're going to have to pay $7,000 because we still get a credit of the 43. That's why it's going to budget, because now we're going to pay $7,000.
The differential, that's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we pay a lot more than that for the service itself.
Yeah.
It's just that based on that credit, they're not giving us back. Okay, we're going to go with the vote. Vote's open. Councillor Lennox up.
Yes.
Motion's carried. Unfinished business, we have none. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Kilmer.
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion's carried. We're adjourned. Half an hour. Is that good? 30 minutes?